Big East Men's Soccer is brought to you by Invesco QQQ, the official ETF of the Big East Conference. Month of November in full swing. Crisp autumn feel today in Queens ahead of a massive Big East showdown at St. John's and number 18 Georgetown on Senior Day for the Red Storm. And with that, we say hello and welcome you to Belson Stadium. I'm Johnny Gadamowicz. Let's start with the Red Storm, a Big East Division title up for grabs today for Dave Mazur's crew. If St. John's wins, combined with a Providence loss or a draw, and St. John's will win that East Division, they have already clinched a playoff home game as far as that first round is concerned, but obviously would love to grab the division title as well. On the flip side for Georgetown, Hoyas have been cruising really all season. Haven't lost a game in over a month. You got to go back to September the 28th against Akron to find the last time the Hoyas lost. Hit you with a couple of players to keep an eye out for, one of which for St. John's. Red Storm haven't played in a week, but when they last took the field, it was Antonio Biggs who provided a late goal off the bench, no less. Biggs, a defender, but he came up and helped out on that front line and used his noggin to propel the ball into the net off of a set piece, and that ended up tying St. John's and UConn at 1 apiece. On the flip side for the Hoyas, Matthew Van Horn, one of really a number of players who have put some serious numbers up for Georgetown this season. 6 goals on the campaign so far for the sophomore, and his head coach Brian Wiese really pleased with the strides he has taken as a sophomore over the course of the year. So keep an eye out for both Biggs and Van Horn over the course of this one. St. John's and Georgetown should be a good one. Glad to have you on board right here on the Big East Digital Network. And we welcome you back to Belson Stadium, getting you set for St. John's and Georgetown. Red Storm will be in those home whites, working left to right. Georgetown in the visiting Navy Blues. They'll work towards the goal on the left end of your screen. Once again, appreciate you hanging out with us here on the Big East Digital Network. Johnny Gadamowicz with you. This is a huge game. These two teams both sitting atop the East Division of the Big East Conference. St. John's would clinch that division again with a win and some help as far as that Providence game is concerned, whereas Georgetown hoping to come to Queens and take care of business. We are underway from Belson Stadium. First time in a week this St. John's team has taken the field. Mentioned it off the top of the show, coming off a big tie last week right here at Belson Stadium against the Huskies in a game where UConn really had the upper hand for majority of it. But that guy that you saw right there send it down the field, Antonio Biggs, coming off the bench for the first time this year, he provided the late equalizer. That ended up being the difference in what was a 1-1 tie. There's the netminder for Georgetown, our first look of the afternoon at Tenzing Mansky. He is between the pipes for the Hoyas, sort of botched that attempt there and went right into the breadbasket of Diaz. St. John's loves to play with pace. They love to play aggressively. And it will be a goal kick for the Hoyas after the ball sent out of play. So, yeah, we'll ID those goalies for you. It's Mansky, who we just told you about, in that green jersey on the far right end, getting ready for this goal kick. On the flip side, man between the pipes for the Red Storm is the same guy it has been really all year. That is Alec McLaughlin, and he has enjoyed quite the campaign, has McLaughlin now in his junior year. Approaching the 40-save threshold on the season for a St. John's squad that is trying to knock off the Hoyas. Georgetown nationally ranked, coming into play today with the number 18 in front of their name. Trying to uptick that for the better. Can they get something going here on attack? Max Vieira trying to create some separation. Georgetown does have numerous guys that can beat you. Vieira, one of them. Yet to find the back of the net this season, but does have a couple of helpers. Eric Howard out of the left back spot for the Hoyas. Brian Weiss's crew. Weiss now in his 19th season at the helm. Flag does come up for offsides. Yeah, these are two coaches that are really staples in the conference. You talk about Dave Mazur, obviously from a St. John standpoint. Now in his 38th season at the helm. 1996 national champion. 4 NCAA College Cup appearances. Similar accolades on the flip side for Weiss in year number 19 atop this Hoyas program. Weiss, who played his college ball at Dartmouth, had the chance to catch up with him pregame, and he remembered when he was a player at Dartmouth going up against Dave Mazur-led St. John's squads over the years. So they were always gritty, always tough to crack. One of those teams that doesn't hand you anything. You've got to earn it. St. John's trying to extend the run of play with Brady Guijo. Diaz, so dynamic. One of the big players up top for this Red Storm season, really all year long. St. John's trying to get Diaz going. It has been a little while since he has found the back of the net. But Diaz, someone who does have 4 goals on the season. Started his career as more of a facilitator and has since added that goal-scoring layer to his arsenal. Max Jennings trying to clear. Thomas Lamai keeping the pressure on. Lamai, one of 8 student athletes honored pregame today as part of the Senior Day festivities. Great to see those upperclassmen get their recognition, many of them their families on hand as well. Part of an outstanding pregame ceremony here on the turf before things got underway. Boom Song zooming in to collect possession. Tyler Mork in the starting lineup today for the Red Storm. He's popped in and out of it over various points this year. Will be a Georgetown throw from that near side. Ball popped up into the air and out of play. Lands about 3-4 rows deep. Well, this Georgetown squad so far this season, they do not concede many goals. You look at the total for goals allowed for them on the year, it sits at only 11. They have been tough to crack. Similar case could be made for the team that St. John's saw most recently in UConn as well. Going up against 2 cream of the crop type defenses. And Georgetown able to clear there, trying to work it upfield. Antonio Biggs settles on it on the back line and works it back to his keeper. Last time out for the Hoyas, dominant showing. 4-0 win over DePaul last Saturday afternoon on their home turf at Shaw Field. Hoyas have scored now 7 goals over their previous 2 games. They have really seen an uptick from their offense to combine with that stellar defensive unit that they possess. Here's Tyler Mork. Certainly feels like St. John's has had the upper hand from a possession standpoint through these first 7 minutes or so. See if that persists over the course of this first 45. But yeah, Georgetown outshot DePaul 28-7. quadruple as many shots for the Hoyas as DePaul had last time out. Blue Demons only had 1 shot on goal in that game. Tough to get results when you only have 1 shot on goal. Counterattack brewing here for the Hoyas, perhaps. This is Vieira on the near side, working on Mork. Parlays it backward for Eric Howard. And now the Hoyas will try to build through the back. Tate Lampman also part of this brick wall of a back line. Lampman, a freshman no less from Ann Arbor, Michigan. But he has been a stalwart starting now all 17 games, despite being just a freshman. Here's Van Horn on that right wing. I told you about him off the jump, and for good reason. Mentioned the 6 goals on 32 shots. He is no stranger to peppering the net. And we'll try to do that yet again here today. Does trickle out of play, though, for a Red Storm throw. Georgetown trying to keep the ball on their half. Batted around in the midfield. Mork applying the pressure. And again, out of play, just adjacent to Dave Mazur, that St. John's bench. Dave Mazur was happy to see Antonio Biggs find the back of the net last time out in that 1-1 tie against UConn. First career goal, first collegiate goal for Biggs. Tall center back. You get those set-piece opportunities. You push the tall defenders up just to try to be an extra body in the box. And it worked out. Here's Jakupovic. Doesn't have a ton of help. You see Navy jerseys practically everywhere just collapsing on the ball. No real chance for Jakupovic to try to make something happen there. Lampman and Howard playing catch with it, if you will. If you're just joining us, you have not missed much. A little over 10 minutes gone by. Still haven't seen a shot on either side. Georgetown playing it all the way back to their netminder. Tenzing Mansky with his head on a swivel. Junior from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Numbers for Mansky this season, really good. Save percentage hovering right around 82, well above average. Goals against average is at 0.5. Concedes only about half a goal per game when you do your math. Vieira rainbows it all the way up ahead. McLaughlin aggressive in his box. Out to retreat. Yeah, both these goalies, McLaughlin for St. John's, Mansky for Georgetown, enjoying real nice campaigns. Hoyas have it in the middle. This is Joe Buck. Not to be confused, of course, with the famous sportscaster. Trickles out of play for a throw-in. Hoyas will possess. Eric Howard to get it started. Howard, a sophomore midi from Washington. Washington State, that is, playing his college ball, obviously, in our nation's capital. Hoyas looking a little bit more comfortable as this first half has progressed. St. John's came out and really set the tone. But over the course of the last couple of minutes, we've seen Georgetown a little bit more adept in that possession game. Again, Georgetown just passing it around that back line. Very methodical. This Hoyas team that's not going to force things. They will wait until the window is open and then strike. But so far, we haven't seen much offensively on either side. Still no combined shots. Well, these two teams obviously well acclimated with one another. Two Big East rivals. Series history dates back quite a while. You look at the all-time head-to-head numbers, St. John's has had the upper hand. They lead the all-time series 24 wins to 13 losses. Pretty comfortable margin. Also 4 ties sprinkled in there as well. But recently, you look at the last couple of years. Official timeout. As Miguel Diaz on the turf. St. John's just 1 win in its previous 6 tries. Two squads did tie last year's match down in D.C. 1-1. So Diaz will get tended to as that clock does draw to a stop with 30 minutes and 50 seconds remaining here in half number 1. Diaz back up onto his own 2 feet. He appears to be all good to go. And it will be St. John's ball off the restart. Well, Dave Mazur and his staff certainly happy to see Diaz all good. One of the primary goal scorers on this Red Storm squad here in 2024. Will be a Hoyas throw. Eric Howard lets it fly. Bit of a miscommunication between Partey and Boomsong, but St. John's emerging with possession nonetheless. Kope shovels it all the way up ahead. Easy play for Mansky to collect in the box. Playing maybe one of the captains on this Georgetown squad. Senior from Illinois, donning that number 12. You saw him involved there. Now from the right wing. Takedown on that far side. Draws a whistle that will point in the direction of the Red Storm. Another whistle, that time also against the Hoyas. So we're seeing an uptick in physicality a little bit for this Georgetown crew. Diaz one-on-one trying to beat his defender. Maybe a strong takeaway. Shaw St. John's trying to get it to Kozak in the box.
Official timeout.
Another stoppage on the field. 28-25, what that first half timer reads. Cameron Boomsong was a bit shaken up. Off the throw-in, Partey looking for Guijo. He gets a noggin on it. You see the Georgetown bench on that far side just staying fresh. Brian Weiss likes to play a lot of guys. Don't be surprised whatsoever if we see a bevy of changes over the course of the 90 minutes. Haven't called Bjorn Nikolajewski's name much yet today. One of the center back anchors on this St. John's squad. He and Antonio Biggs have made for a real nice 1-2 punch on the back line. St. John's trying to ignite something with Thomas Lamai. Lamai flips it from far side to near. A little too hot to handle, though, for Diaz. Hoyas have it on the back line. Georgetown 8-3-5 overall. Picked to finish atop the Big East Division poll. Slotted in the number 1 spot out of the 6 teams in the East. And so far, that is how it has played out. A 5-1-1 conference record. Majority of the struggles that the Hoyas have had, though, have come when playing on the road. You look at the 7 matches for the Hoyas away from Shaw Field, only 3 wins. They are 3-2-2 through 7 road games. But the Hoyas returning so much from their squad last year that went 13-3-3. Made it all the way to the NCAA tournament, second round to be exact. Georgetown topped by James Madison 1-0 in the second round of the postseason tournament a year ago. Believe it or not, though, did not win the Big East tournament. They did make it all the way to the title game, did the Hoyas, but ultimately fell to Xavier in penalty kicks. But still had pieced together a strong enough resume to garner that at-large bid before eventually getting topped by the Dukes of James Madison in the second round. So this is a Georgetown team that has been there, done that, so to speak, and has a little bit of that sense of unfinished business. Good touch for Lamai on the far side. Van Horn, cool, calm, collected, trying to beat his defenders. Boomsong takes it away. Long strides for him. Approaching the halfway point of this first half in a game that has not had a whole lot going on, to be quite frank. Maybe a chance here. Nothing doing. We still have not seen a shot on either side. And we're more than 20 minutes into this contest. Give you a check on some of the statistics. Obviously, no shots on goal for either squad because there have been no shots, period. Neither goalie has had to make a save. Georgetown has committed 1 offsides as opposed to nothing for the Red Storm. Hoyas have also committed 3 fouls to St. John's 1. So we've seen that physicality on full display. As you might expect, 2 Big East foes going toe-to-toe. Tenzing Mansky there. Looks like the Red Storm getting ready to make their first sub. Appears to be Jackson Gould on that far side. Looks like he'll be checking in momentarily at the next dead ball. So perhaps a couple of tactical changes for Dave Mazur. Now that he's seen north of 20 minutes of play. Here are the Hoyas. Baker moves it right. Good play to win it away by Partey. Anticipatory interception. Right place, right time. And that might have saved what could have been a real high-quality chance there for the Hoyas. Instead, we'll never know.
St. John's substitutions. Now into the match, number 12, Jackson Gould.
So it is Jackson Gould and Augie Boadi into the contest.
They replaced number 22, Brady Giho,
taking the spot of Giho and Kozak. So Gould and Boadi on, Giho and Kozak off.
The Red Storm, replacing 22, Brady Giho, and 13, Martin Kozak.
So Dave Mazur shuffling things up front a little bit, hoping that the guys off the bench can provide a spark offensively. For the time being, though, it's Georgetown threatening. Boomsong takes it away. Diaz and Boomsong go back and forth. We'll see if St. John's tries to get these fresh legs acclimated. No touches yet for Boadi or Gould. Does that change here? It is Gould on that right wing. Boadi trying to create some separation, nothing doing. Boadi, some nifty footwork on that far side. Beats the first defender. Second wave of reinforcements, though, prevent anything further.
Georgetown substitutions. Down to the match for the Hoyas, number 22, Jack Heaps. Number 9, Marlon Tabora. And number 4, Oliver Stafford.
Jack Heaps, Marlon Tabora, Oliver Stafford. A trio of Georgetown subs.
Number 28, Matthew Van Horn. And number 20, Matthew Helfrich.
Baker, Van Horn, and Helfrich to the bench for the time being.
22, Jack Heaps. 9, Marlon Tabora. And 4, Oliver Stafford, all in for the Hoyas. Replacing 18, Mitchell Baker. 28, Matthew Van Horn. And 20, Matthew Helfrich.
So both coaches trying to keep fresh legs out there. as we progress further and further into this first half. Once again, appreciate you hanging out with us here on the Big East Digital Network. Johnny Gadamowitz with you, bottom of the 2 o'clock hour, St. John's and Georgetown. Both these teams know they're postseason bound, trying to pick up a big win late in the regular season and help their case as far as seeding is concerned. Still so much to be determined. Matchup-wise, these squads won't know until everything gets sorted out as far as the final standings and who's going to see who. Both these teams know they are hosting, though. It'll be a set piece here for the Red Storm. Remember, St. John's scored off a set piece last game on an Antonio Biggs header. Right arm up in the air. Jakupovic sends it in. Was looking towards the direction of Biggs. But Georgetown does clear. Foul did go against Jack Heaps, who recently just checked in.
Saturday's verdict versus UConn. The men's soccer team clinched hosting rights for the first round of the Big East tournament. The Giants will play here at Belson Stadium in the first round of the playoffs next Saturday, November 9th at 5 p.m. Visit RedStormTix.com to get your tickets.
Who's that in that game? Monday. No. Oh, yeah. I know Joey's doing Monday. Joey and Matt Anthony, right? He's Monday, yeah. And then who's doing Saturday? Nick, he's still checking. I think I asked him to see who's around.
Kate Lampton.
If you're free, you want to do it. I'm here for volleyball, but if you need me to come out here, I can. I'm already here. I'm already at the same time. No. Volleyball's at 7:30. Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay. Did he tell you that? No, he didn't tell me. So 7:30, if you want to do a game, I can go over afterwards. Yeah.
Can St. John's make something happen here offensively? Boomsong has been a staple in the midfield. We've seen number 14 really on both ends, pitching in offensively, defensively, what have you. Boomsong, someone who has always kind of been that jack of all trades. St. John's hoping he can have an impact. You see him in the central midfield right now as Georgetown trying to build through their back line, but that will not do them any favors. Diaz takes it away, and St. John's can settle on it defensively. Gold trying to track it down on that right wing. Couldn't keep it in bounds, just had too much mustard on it. So a Georgetown throw. And as we stand here with 15 and change to go in the first half, still no shots to show for either side. If you like good defense and more possession-oriented type play, then this has been a game for you. Almost like a good pitcher's duel, if you will. But at some point, you'd figure something's got to give, particularly with the prowess that both of these teams possess from an offensive standpoint. You can only keep the attack at bay for so long before somebody breaks through in some regard. Georgetown has numbers here. Hoya's trying to get the counterattack going from that far side. They flick it towards the top of the box. Diving stop by Partey and a little bit of contact. Hoya's wanted a whistle. They didn't get it. And now that clock will stop at 14:35. Well, it was the Hoya player that took the worst of it. Appeared to be Zach Zengay right atop the box as Partey came in with the slide tackle. And looked like he got ball first, but Zengay still taking the brunt of it. Prompts an official timeout at 14:35. And we'll see if the officials want to take a peek at this any further here. 14:35 to go, and as they do take a peek, we'll take a short break right here on the Big East Digital Network. So that call on the field confirmed. No penalty kick. Foul occurring from just outside the box. Officials just wanted to get it squared away and make sure they knew exactly where it was committed. Obviously, if it was inside the box, different story, different result, but not the case here as that call stands and play resumes with 14:30 to go. Once again, thanks for hanging out with us here on this Saturday afternoon. Johnny Gadamowitz with you here on the Big East Digital Network, St. John's and Georgetown.
That is Georgetown free kick, 12 on 25.
Well, one number on the score sheet that has been populated right from the jump is in the fouls column. These two teams like to play fast. They like to play physical. And for what this game has lacked in chances on goal, it has been made up for in physicality and, unfortunately, fouls. 6 total, 4 committed by the Hoyas, 2 committed by St. John's. Zengay moving it backward. And another takedown on that near side, and this time it'll be a St. John's foul. We do get a yellow card shown to Jackson Gould. Number 12 in white.
Issued to number 12 of St. John's, Jackson Gould, at 31-34.
Gould certainly did not appear to agree with the booking, but he is shown a yellow nonetheless. 13 and change to go here in this first half. It'll be a Hoyas free kick off the restart. Maybe on the near side. Partey, another strong takeaway. He's enjoyed a nice first half so far on that back line. Partey restarts off the throw. Made the point earlier about seeing Cameron Boomsong all over the place. Similar case could be made for Tyler Mork, number 15 for St. John's. Trying to apply the pressure here. Georgetown couldn't thread the needle. Wonky Blani shovels it near side for Diaz. Diaz trying to get it to one of his strikers. No dice there for Jackson Gould, and worked all the way back for Mansky in the box.
Cameron Boomsong.
Mork looking for help. Still no shots, no corners for either squad. No saves made by either goalie, which makes sense when you consider no shots. Both Mansky and McLaughlin have had plenty of time to rest up. That's part of the conversation, too. You talk about contests like this one from a goalie standpoint, where you have those prolonged periods of play where you might not necessarily need to be all too involved and try to make something happen. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you got to dial it up and make a big save, a game-saving save perhaps. But that's something that both of these goalies are certainly used to. McLaughlin for St. John's, Mansky for Georgetown. Even when they don't need to be locked in 24/7, the ability to turn it on in an instant, in a moment's notice, and make a big save when needed. Subs continue on both sides. So it looks like Georgetown's about to make a sub of 4 guys into the match. So some fresh legs for the Hoyas in the closing stages here of this first half. Always talk about so big to get one right before the halftime break. Try to grab some of that momentum and hope that can fuel and propel you into the second half. Will that be the case for either of these teams here? Can they gain the upper hand before we step aside at the halftime break? 9 minutes to go between now and then. Georgetown bench all irate. You saw all their arms flailed up in the air simultaneously. Does appear to be a Georgetown throw. They'll make their substitution.
Number 14, Cole Peretti. Number 11, David Urrutia. And number 10, Mateo Ponce Ocampo. They replaced number 22, Jack Heaps. Number 7, Max Vieira. Number 12, Blaine Navy. And number 19, Zach Zenge. 15, Ronan Dillo. 14, Cole Peretti. 11, David Urrutia. And 10, Mateo Ponce Ocampo, all in for the Hoyas. Replacing 22, Jack Heaps. 7, Max Vieira. 20, Russian 12, Blaine Navy. And 19, Zach Zenge.
So plenty of substitutions for the Hoyas. Does it amount to anything? As Mork is taken down in the middle, no whistle, although looked like he wanted one. Didn't get it, though. And we play on. It'll be a Georgetown throw. Flag does come up for offsides on that far side. So Georgetown unable to time up their run properly. Not the first time today we've seen an offsides call against the Hoyas. In fact, it is the second. St. John's on the other side, they have not been perpetrators in that regard at all. No offsides for the Red Storm. 7 minutes to go, half number one. And with the way this first half has been played, you wouldn't think anything changes between now and the halftime horn. But all it takes is one counterattack to sort of come into fruition out of nowhere. And next thing you know, you're looking at a very different ball game. Boadi and Boomsong trying to secure possession. And St. John's content to play it back with Partey, the right back, looking for options as he scans upfield. Tic-tac-toe passing, works it back to Partey, hollering out the orders on that back line. Well, a first half that has not had much for the highlight reel so far, but that does not mean it has not been a closely contested match nonetheless. Mork, another strong takeaway. Does St. John's have something brewing? They do not. Georgetown very composed in their possession here. Ponce Ocampo looking for options. He was one of those recent subs that checked on. Partey, the right back, had to give up on the play when he lost control. Georgetown trying to get back to being Big East champions, something they have not done since 2021 when they won their conference tournament. They did win the Big East regular season title a year ago. That was their 10th in program history. They've been to the NCAA tournament in 5 of the last 6 seasons. This is a Hoyas program that routinely expects to be playing soccer in the middle of November. And more often than not, these last couple of years, they have done just that. Does 2024 have something similar in store? Again, Hoyas bounced by JMU last year. 1-0 in round 2. James Madison took him down to spoil the fun for Georgetown. As for St. John's, on the other hand, they fell to UConn in the Big East quarterfinals in overtime last year, and that was as far as they would go. Three and a half remaining here in half number one. The first half that still has not seen a single shot. Hard to believe. But this is the second straight game that St. John's has played that has kind of followed a similar narrative. Mentioned that UConn game right here last weekend. Here's a strong set-piece chance to the middle of the box. Ball is available at the apex. Joe Buck sends it up ahead. Not the crispest pass in the world, though, from Buck, who tried to orchestrate a little bit of a give and go. And it will trickle out of play for a St. John's goal kick. Georgetown can't believe it. Hoyas thought that the Johnnies got the last touch there. But instead, it will be a goal kick with 2:40 to go. And depending on how much Alec McLaughlin wants to take his time here, that can get things that much closer to the halftime break. Good ball movement here for the Hoyas. Didn't last very long, though, as St. John's take away from Boomsong. And they do say too much physicality, maybe a bit of a frustration play there for Georgetown after losing possession. St. John's will pick up its 4th foul. Looked like Augie Buani, the guilty party. So up to now 9 total fouls in this first half. In what has been a defensive-oriented battle so far.
This is the last minute of play in the first half. 1 minute. I may turn up at your school somewhere. If I can get a Big East job, I would be taking it.
Under 30 seconds remaining in half number 1. And Georgetown, fittingly, right now just passing it around the back line. St. John's the takeaway with Boomsong. He and Lamai go back and forth. Tyler Mork pulls it back.
5, 4.
And that is how our first half comes to a close. So if you just hopped on the broadcast, you have not missed much, because that first half did not see a single shot from either side. We're scoreless, 0-0 through 45. We'll step aside, come back your way shortly with some halftime coverage, and then ultimately second half action coming up from Belson Stadium here on Senior Day in Queens. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Big East Men's Soccer right here on the Big East Digital Network.
have 1 minute
45 minutes down, 45 to go here from Belson Stadium as we welcome you back to Queens, St. John's, and Georgetown right here on the Big East Digital Network. Again, thanks for stopping by. Johnny Gadamowitz on hand with you. Normally, this would be the point in the broadcast where we'd show you some highlights, but to be quite frank, there were not many in that first half. Not a single shot through the first 45 minutes of play. So with that in mind, why don't we take a peek at the table right now as far as the Big East standings are concerned. And needless to say, so much up for grabs here today. A Georgetown win, that means they win the East Division. A St. John's win, that would put them in play to win the East Division. St. John's would need a win and some help, either a Providence loss or draw. So Providence is really kind of hoping, you would think, that St. John's wins today to prevent Georgetown from getting that 6th win. And then if the Friars handle business, they could be looking at an East Division title. So needless to say, a lot up for grabs. There's different sort of scenarios all over the place as far as that seeding is concerned, who could play who. But what both these teams, St. John's and Georgetown, do know is that they will be hosting as far as that first round is concerned. And those games slated to come next Saturday on November the 9th. So getting to be that time of the year where everybody is scoreboard watching, so to speak. And the same could be said for these two teams, obviously, St. John's and Georgetown. Again, they both know that they are postseason bound. It's just a matter of who are they playing, what seed do they get, and as things stand right now in the Providence game, Providence also is playing right now. They're playing Xavier. They have played 45 minutes, and they are scoreless at halftime. So we will certainly keep you posted on that Providence-Xavier game as we progress further and further into the show today. All right, we'll step aside one more time, come back your way shortly with second half action. St. John's and Georgetown, Red Storm and Hoyas. We've got a good one right here on the Big East Digital Network. Fans, we remind you, Big East Men's Soccer is brought to you by Invesco QQQ, the official ETF of the Big East Conference. Getting you set for second half action here from Belson Stadium. No score, no shots. Hard to believe between St. John's and Georgetown. Two teams that certainly possess offenses that can be high-flying and very pacey and physical, but neither of those have been on display. It's been the defense. This has been a real possession-oriented game, and we'll see what adjustments both these squads make coming out of the break as they try to just dial up something offensively and just put some balls on net and try to make something happen in that regard. So Georgetown will begin this second half with possession. Obviously, two teams will flip sides. Hoya's working left to right. St. John's right to left. On this gorgeous Saturday afternoon from New York City.
Starting action in the second half, Georgetown will kick off and will defend the goal.
Again, we'll remind you, it's the point of the year where everybody kind of scoreboard watching a little bit. The game to note around the conference is Providence and Xavier. And right now, the Friars and Musketeers are deadlocked at 0-0 as well. St. John's could clinch the Big East Division with a win and a Providence College draw or tie. So we will certainly keep you posted on that front as second half play resumes here. And early on, it is Georgetown the aggressor. Hoya's quick out of the gate. Ball stays in bounds. Eric Donkwa didn't call his name in the first half, but Donkwa starting this second half on the pitch for the Red Storm. Nigel Griffith out there as well. Georgetown zigzagging their way up ahead. Out of play for a Red Storm throw. Yeah, you look at the season for the Hoyas so far. No losses since September the 28th. The only Big East game that they have dropped this season came on their home turf in a 1-0 defeat to Akron. Akron obviously a powerhouse in the West Division. The Zips running away with the conference Midwest Division. Nobody else in that Midwest Division has more than 3 wins. Akron's got 21 points. Next highest is Creighton with 10. But a very different narrative here in the East Division where things are a lot closer. Georgetown, Providence, St. John's all jockeying for that top spot. Not the case out in the Midwest Division whatsoever. It has been Akron's division to lose all year, and all they've done is keep on winning. Partey was an integral piece of that Red Storm back line in the first half. We saw him make a number of key stops, including one where he was called for a foul towards the top of the box. But the physicality of Partey has been on full display. Boomsong took a hard touch, and that enabled a Georgetown player to spill to the turf. So it's going to be a Hoyas set piece here. Too much contact that time around from Boomsong. And now St. John's might have to pay the price. So a big-time set-piece opportunity here in a game where there have not been many chances. Georgetown can ill afford to waste a chance like this. It comes from the far side. We'll see who takes it. Cross to the far post and headed out of play.
The header by Maximus Jennings.
Jennings got the far head to it, but was inaccurate in trying to propel it forward. So a harmless chance there leads to a St. John's goal kick. Ball sent out of play, trickling towards our crew, the production truck. Doing a great job holding the fort down and now even being involved in the game on the field too. Make sure you guys give it back to them. They are telling fans on hand here, any ball out of play, make sure you go ahead and distribute it back to the event staff. Same holds true for the broadcasting crew as well. So a goal kick here for the Red Storm. Or pardon me, it's McLaughlin just settling on it in his net. No goal kick. Now he will boom it all the way down onto the other half of the pitch. Ball being tipped around. Georgetown player on the turf, and that draws a whistle. Godwin Partey couldn't believe it. He had both palms skyward, as if to say, no chance that was a foul. But the head official disagreeing, much to the chagrin of the home faithful here on hand today. Good crowd on hand on this senior day. Great to see so many of the St. John's upperclassmen have their families in attendance. 8 student athletes honored during those pregame ceremonies, and I'm sure they'd love nothing more than to end it with a victory. But right now, another free kick for the Hoyas. This one from a bit further out, but a little more straight on than the last attempt. This ball sent in towards the net. Nikola Juski got a head on it. Now Lamai plays it awry.
Ball headed up by Thomas Lamai. Georgetown corner kick.
But because Lamai got the last touch, it is a corner kick. And get this, 7 minutes into the second half, this is our first corner kick of the match.
Corner kick taken by Eric Howard.
Appears to be Eric Howard trying to concoct something here for Georgetown. Howard's cross, a good one towards the middle, batted around and cleared. Well, that is as close as the Hoyas have been all day long. But St. John's clears for the time being. Does stay with Georgetown, though, off of a throw. Hoyas trying to keep the pressure on. Low cross. And Lamai whacks it out. Last touch by a Hoya, so will be a goal kick. So St. John's, at least for the time being, gets through that stretch unscathed. With 37 and change to go in the second half. By the way, we can tell you second half action underway between Providence and Xavier, still scoreless in that contest. Here come the Red Storm, courtesy of Lamai on the left wing. Plays it to the middle. Donkwa, he's got some real estate. Good battle for possession here towards the corner. Lamai powers across towards net. Monsky there. Climbing the ladder to secure it with the gloves. And keep us deadlocked at 0-0. It'll be a St. John's throw from the far side. We do have our first couple of shots of the day officially on the score sheet. Georgetown does have 2 of them. Towards the net here. Hoya's on it defensively. Jakupovic rainbows it towards the middle. Donkwa took a tumble. No whistle. And the Red Storm can't believe it. Both Jakupovic and Boadi having a conversation with the official as Donkwa continues to labor in the box. And that draws us to a break in the action. 35-26 to go, second half. Donkwa is now sitting upright in the box. And it looks like the officials might want to take a peek at this thing as they head to the VAR. We will step aside here on the Big East Digital Network. Still no score between St. John's and Georgetown.
Penalty kick has been awarded to St. John's.
So in a game that has not had many chances whatsoever, St. John's is going to have about as strong of a chance as you possibly can. A penalty kick is the result after the officials took a peek at that previous sequence. So they do say foul against Georgetown inside the box, and that is going to set up a St. John's penalty kick opportunity. And it looks like it will be Nigel Griffith to take it, the fifth-year player from Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Griffith, who has 1 goal already this season, searching for his second from the PK spot and trying to put St. John's on top. Griffith strikes and scores! Nigel Griffith, on his senior day, puts St. John's on top 1-0. Griffith buried it home. He beat Mansky, and St. John's has the lead. Oh, St. John's did not have a single shot up until that point. St. John's awarded the penalty kick, and Griffith makes sure not to waste it. Second goal of the season for Nigel Griffith, after a 2-goal campaign a year ago as well. Griffith, who more often than not comes off the bench for this Red Storm squad, always providing a spark offensively, and that time making the most of a high-quality chance.
Red Storm goal by 25, Nigel Griffith, on the penalty kick at 54-34.
And get this, St. John's has really enjoyed opportunities with PKs this year. St. John's has had 4 penalty kick chances this season. They have converted on all of them, 4 for 4. Got to make the most of opportunities like that. And Griffith doing just that to put the Red Storm in front. Official time of the goal, 54-32. Plenty of time left for Georgetown to try to equalize, or for St. John's to try to tack on to the lead. So how does that change things for the Red Storm perhaps now? Do they try to sit back and just continue to play a little more defense, or push the aggressive nature in the middle? Another goal! It's Griffith again! On a counterattack ignited by Augie Boiti, and Griffith with 2 goals in practically as many minutes. Where did that come from? St. John's in the driver's seat by 2. Nigel Griffith with more goals today than he has had all season combined. 1 from the PK dot, and 1 there on a counterattack ignited by Boiti. And the attention now turning towards an injured Hoya towards their net. But regardless, with 33-11 to go in the second half, St. John's has ballooned its lead to 2. So the time apart for the 2 Griffith goals, officially 2 minutes and 13 seconds. As the Georgetown player is continuing to get tended to in the box. With the injury, we will step aside for the time being. St. John's up 2-0 right here on the Big East Digital Network. We welcome you back to Belson Stadium. St. John's up 2-0. Injured Hoya was tended to and is back onto the bench, receives a well-deserved round of applause. 2 minutes and change, the time between the two Nigel Griffith goals. Just awaiting the official signal here for play to resume with 33 minutes and 11 seconds remaining in what has become a brand new ball game. St. John's has as many goals as they have shots. 2 goals on 2 shots. Hard to be more efficient than that. But that is what the Red Storm have been working with so far this afternoon.
On assists by number 7, Augie Buati, and number 8, Julian Yakopovic. Time of the goal, 56 minutes, 49 seconds. Red Storm goal scored by 25, Nigel Griffith, assisted by 7, Augie Buati, and
So Buati gets the assist
at 56.
on the Griffith tally. For Buati, that is assist number 3 on the season. So he has been a real distributor all year, upping that point total, now his 3rd helper. So it will be a St. John's corner here.
John's corner kick taken by Julian Yakopovic.
If you're Georgetown and you want to take the glass half full approach, you do have ample time to try to mount some sort of comeback here. Still north of a half hour left in this game. Here's the corner, punched out. Mansky got his right arm on it. St. John settles on it with Eric Dankwa. It has been a new look Red Storm team here in half number 2. Applying a little bit more pressure, and that seemingly has made the difference. The only thing you'd wish would be going better from a St. John standpoint is perhaps a Xavier goal in the Musketeer-Friar match. They are scoreless right now in the 62nd minute, meaning if that holds and they indeed stay scoreless through 90 and this result stays the same, that would give St. John's an East Division title crown. But obviously still plenty of game time left in both of those contests. Buati and Yakopovic going back and forth. Cameron Boomsong in the middle. Tackle on that far side, no whistle. Georgetown handles possession defensively. Out of play for a Hoya throw. And we will have a couple of substitutions here for the Hoyas. Continuing to tinker and kind of mix and match, if you will, for Brian Weiss. His squad back up against the wall, something that they are not really used to.
They replaced number 14, Cole Perete, number 15, Roland Dillo.
Mentioned the fact that Georgetown has not lost in going on up over a month.
And number 20, Matthew Halfrey.
To find the last time the Hoyas lost a game, you got to go back to September the 28th against Akron. Since then, 4 wins and 2 ties.
Replacing 14, Cole Perete,
Georgetown's only lost 3 times all year.
10, Mateo Ponce.
The Akron loss, the only Big East loss, and then a couple in the non-conference in the earlier portions of the season. They were topped by Pitt in the opener 2-0, and they were topped by JMU in early September 1-0. Of course, the same JMU team that knocked them out of the NCAA tournament a year ago. So Georgetown is not used to this, having to play kind of come from behind style ball. But that is what they will do for these final 28 minutes and change, at least if they want to try to equalize here.
Like he would not shut up about how much of a hitter's park Yankee Stadium is. Like he's not wrong, but it is, but it isn't. Like left field at Yankee Stadium is also very
Handball called against Georgetown. Free kick awarded to the Red Storm with 28 and change remaining. Once again, thanks so much for hanging out with us here on the Big East Digital Network. My name is Johnny Gadamowitz, just about the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. Glad you decided to make us a small part of your Saturday afternoon, enjoying some outstanding weather. That fall Christmas in the air, but certainly not too chilly by any means. A week that has seen record high temperatures in the New York City area. Some of these players thinking it might be more of a feel of some early season type games, what you'd expect as far as the weather is concerned, as opposed to early November, late season, which is what we're dealing with in actuality. Lamai with his head powers it towards net, harmlessly into the arms of Menske.
Syracuse is winning in overtime.
And for Georgetown, you wonder, when does it start to become desperation mode, so to speak, of perhaps trying to push some guys further upfield? Again, a 2-goal deficit, very different than a 1-goal deficit. Right now, primary objective number 1 for the Hoyas has to be trim this deficit to 1. They can't score 2 goals at once, just got to kind of chip away. And they have the numbers to try to think about doing so here.
Georgetown corner kick taken by Eric Howard.
It'll be Eric Howard to take the corner. Only corner kick number 2 of the afternoon for the Hoyas. Low cross, sent towards the middle of the box. Donkwa in to save the day, and St. John's can clear. Played all the way down and kept in. Very impressive run of play there by Lamai. And the St. John's bench absolutely loving it. Nikola Juski shovels it backward for McLaughlin. .24 and change remaining here in half number 2. St. John's a couple of second half goals. One from the PK spot from Nigel Griffith. One a traditional goal from Nigel Griffith. He has single-handedly outscored the Hoyas 2-0 today. St. John's, just so many guys that can beat you. Griffith, one of them. Again, coming into play today, only had the one goal all season. Ball did trickle off the official there. So it looks like it should be a drop kick, you would think. Georgetown right now just passing it around the back line. At a certain point, you'd figure the Hoyas will need to show a little bit more of a sense of urgency to try to make something happen offensively.
Oliver Stafford. Ron Tabora.
Hard ricochet. McLaughlin whacks it out of play.
Please return all balls.
We are now more than halfway expired here in half number 2. 22 and a half minutes to go. Good cross. Ball available. McLaughlin sprawling to his left. And St. John's makes a stand. No luck for Zenge, who tried to go to the right foot.
Georgetown corner kick.
Still an opportunity, though. Hoyas will have a corner kick here.
Correction, goal kick.
Now they do say goal kick. Yeah, the officials did seem to point towards that corner spot. But it is a goal kick all the same. That would explain perhaps why McLaughlin was so enraged with that initial ruling. And ultimately does end up getting overturned. So Georgetown comes up empty-handed on what probably was their best chance of the half so far. Have not seen the Hoyas possess the ball very much in the attacking third since coming out of the locker room.
Tensing Maskey. Matt Halpert. Alec McLaughlin.
McLaughlin hollering out the orders. Alec, who has had outstanding communication between his back line and himself all season. A lot of times that doesn't get talked about enough. From a goalie standpoint, part of the gig is just being an organizer, so to speak, and having that communication with your back line. And Dave Mazur has called Alec McLaughlin a leader in that regard really all season. Zenge's got some open space. Tried to do a little spinorama on the defender, but a good win on the ball. St. John's, though, can't power it into any real opportunity. Little bit of a jersey tug, but no whistle. And now the whistle does come. Yellow card will come out. Cameron Boomsong is the perpetrator. Well, Boomsong loves that aggressive style of play. And we've seen it on full display today, but that time a little too physical for the officials' liking. And he is hit with a yellow as a result. Zenge and Howard. It is Howard to take. Opts to go to the left wing. Griffith gets a deflection on the shot attempt. Out of play for a throw-in.
I had 2:15. Yeah, 54:34 was the time of the first goal. 56:29 was the second. I go by the scoreboard clock.
Another takeaway on that back line for the Red Storm. Out of play for a throw. And now a St. John's throw. So the Hoyas running out of time. Not to say a 2-goal deficit isn't insurmountable. Certainly can come back. But if they want to accomplish that feat, you'd figure they need to make something happen sooner rather than later. Can Van Horn spark something here?
Oh, wow. Name does not sound familiar at all. Okay. I know your friend who was at Damon, right? Was he at Damon for a while? Oh, Max Sacco.
Max Biara.
Where is he now? Is he still there? Or
Yeah. No, he was at Canisius and now he's at Damon.
Augie Boadi in the middle. Burst of speed for Jakupovic. Drags it down to the corner. Boadi to the middle for Griffith. He has been the man of the match so far. And if you're St. John's, you certainly have no real sense of urgency here over these final 17 minutes. And a frustration tackle on the near side. Jakupovic not pleased whatsoever. Jakupovic getting into it with Marlon Tabora of the Hoyas.
Back into the match, number 22, Jack Heaps. And he replaces number 9, Marlon Tabora. 22, Jack Heaps in for the Hoyas, replacing 9, Marlon Tabora.
Biggs takes a touch. Boadi whiffed, and that enables Georgetown to take it away. Good battle for possession. Georgetown throw. Jakupovic trying to track it down. Now Dankwa, so crafty on the ball. St. John's throw.
Max Biara.
McLaughlin tried to power it towards the middle and some contact in the midfield. Dankwa and Buck collided, and that stops the clock with 15:47 remaining.
Fans, the men's soccer team will be back in action right here at Bellson Stadium on Monday, November 4th, when the Storm takes on CCNY at 6 p.m. For more information, visit RedStormSports.com.
And a St. John's player is down in the box. Athletic training staff out to tend to the injured Red Storm member. With 15:47 remaining, a game that still only has seen 6 shots combined. But St. John's, a 2-0 lead. Nigel Griffith, a couple of goals, including one on the PK, both of which have come in this second half. That is what has the Red Storm out in front. The injured player appears to be Cameron Boomsong, who gingerly is making his way back towards the sidelines.
St. John's injury sub into the match number 15, Tyler Mork, replacing number 14, Cameron Boomsong.
So it'll be a Georgetown free kick. Zenge flicks it in towards the middle, off of a head. But a nice save by McLaughlin to get there in time.
The header by Maximus Jennings.
It was Jennings who got a head on it, but could not put it past McLaughlin.
Matthew Van Horn.
Donqua creates some separation. Hard slide tackle from Griffith. Donqua is still down in the midfield. Things getting a bit chippy here at Belson Stadium. And Donqua was offside.
Official timeout.
Ball sent into the box. McLaughlin saw it coming from a mile away.
Official timeout.
Well, we've had quite a few stoppages over the course of these last couple of minutes. Still 14:05 to go in this second half. This time it was because McLaughlin was slow to get up. Time not on the Hoyas' side. And that holds true more and more the further we progress into this. We can tell you an update from the Xavier Providence game. The Friars have found the score sheet. A 71st minute goal by Cole Dewhurst of Providence has the Friars out in front on top of Xavier 1-0. Hard takedown in the middle. Dave Mazur surprised not to get a whistle. He's got both arms skyward. So that would mean if the results hold,
Saxenye.
in all likelihood, it would be Providence to grab that East Division crown. St. John's needing a win and a Providence draw or loss. Good chance here for the Red Storm. Boati on the left wing, somehow cleared out. Could not get it to an open teammate, and a better job by that Hoya back line to anticipate where that ball was going.
Saxenye. Eric Howard.
11 and change to go. Do the Hoyas have something here? Again, they have to retreat. Georgetown only 4 shots to show for so far today. This Ahoya's squad that is well below their average in that regard. Georgetown averages about 17 shots per game. Today they have only 4. This is a vastly different blueprint than Georgetown has been used to all season. McLaughlin creeping towards the top of his box, and he gets there in time to haul it out of thin air.
Matthew Van Horn. Saxenye.
Here is Zenge trying to make a man miss. Zenge and Jakupovic getting into it a little bit.
Substitutions.
9:31 to go as both squads making some subs down the stretch.
For Georgetown, into the match number 16, Jack Brown, and number 18, Mitchell Baker.
Set piece here for the Hoyas from very far out. So you'd imagine they'll just try to put this towards net. Ball going toward McLaughlin. He loses it, but then regathers.
They replace number 7, Oki Boati, and number 25, Michael Griffith.
St. John's player appears to be tying his cleat with 9:13 to go. And again, that clock stops. Nikolajewski back up onto his own 2 feet. And play resumes with a little over 9 minutes remaining. So McLaughlin going to take his time, and why wouldn't you? St. John's a 2-goal lead, waning stages second half here. Figure if the Red Storm could muster one more, that would really be the nail in the coffin. Georgetown, on the other hand, if they can just get that elusive first, then you're looking at a 1-goal game where anything can happen down the stretch.
Oliver Stafford.
Good ball into the box. Antonio Biggs comes in to save the day.
Joe Buck.
Buck trying to shoulder down Donkwa. And Nikolajewski lets it trickle past the end line.
Saturday at 5 p.m. So that's
Right now, St. John's on the attack looking for a little bit more. If you're just joining us, 45 minutes in, we did not have a single shot in this game. It's been a different story here in the second half, and it all started with a St. John's penalty kick. Nigel Griffith put one past Mansky from the PK dot, and then about 2 minutes and 15 seconds later, doubled up his total on the day with his second goal off of a beautiful find from Augie Boadi on a counterattack to make it 2-0. That is where we stand, and Georgetown only has 4 shots to show for. No contact made with the ball by anybody there, so that goes out. Last touch by Georgetown. It will be a St. John's goal kick with 6:10 remaining on the ticker. And this certainly now the point in time in the match where if you're Georgetown, you got to push numbers upfield to try to just get something going. In search of a spark, they haven't had it all day. You credit the St. John's defense. The likes of Bjorn Nikolajewski, Antonio Biggs, Thomas Lamai, Julian Jakupovic for really slamming the door shut and not giving this Hoyas squad all too many chances to try to put one past Alec McLaughlin. Now, granted, we do still have 5 minutes and change to go, but so far that has been a motif all day long.
the shot by Miguel Diaz. Red Storm corner kick taken by Julian Jakupovic.
It'll be a St. John's corner, Jakupovic to take. Right now, Georgetown's primary concern has to be get the ball on the other end of the field. That's step one. Red Storm might try to play a little keep away here. Takedown on that far side.
Official timeout.
Out of play for a goal kick. And you know Mansky wants to hurry. Hard ricochet off of a big boot.
That is correct. Where do you see? Oh yeah, yeah. It's called the Bill Vinovich Fan Club Cup. He's also in college basketball. So is he? I didn't realize. He is, or he used to be.
3.5 minutes remaining here in half number 2. A half number 2 that has been dominated by the Red Storm. A pair of Nigel Griffith goals has them firmly in front. Trying to hand Georgetown its first loss in over a month. Antonio Biggs trying to track it down. Here is Donkwa with plenty of open space. Threads the needle for Diaz on a nice through ball. And Diaz going to keep it himself. Trying to beat his man and break some ankles. Hard takedown on that near side. No whistle. Diaz not a fan. Jakubovic getting into it.
Official timeout.
Jakubovic was doing a little bit of taunting, shall we say. And this is likely going to draw a booking. It is a yellow card on Jakubovic.
Yellow card caution issued to number 8 of St. John's, Julian Jakubovic, at 87:29.
Nothing doing that time around. Will be a corner, though. Georgetown has to hurry. 2:15 to go in this second half.
Georgetown corner kick. Taken by Zach Zenge.
Zenge will take. Low cross. Mork takes a touch. Out of play for a Georgetown throw. St. John's trying to grab a ranked win. Mork clears all the way to midfield. Diaz gets there first. Continues to power it up ahead. Out of play for a throw. Zenge trying to put it towards the middle. Approaching the final minute of play. Now or never for the Hoyas.
This is the last minute of play in regulation. 1 minute.
Well, what a showing this has been from the Red Storm. To hold a Georgetown team that averages about 17 shots per game to only 4 shots. To find the last time Georgetown didn't score, You got to go back to October the 8th against UMBC. They've only gone scoreless 3 times this season, but now you can go ahead and make it 4. The Red Storm defend home turf on Senior Day. A pair of goals from Nigel Griffith, and St. John's clinches a top 3 spot in the East Division of the Big East Conference. They already know they're hosting, with Providence on top. Maybe not a division title, but all the same, St. John's with some momentum ahead of next Saturday's postseason contest here at Belson Stadium. A big thanks to everybody at home for tuning in. Big thanks to our entire crew for helping out. Libby Sears leading the charge. I'm Johnny Gadamowitz saying so long from Belson Stadium, where St. John's tops number 18 Georgetown 2-0 from Queens. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. We'll talk again soon.